What's up everyone, Mike Hill, the Wholesaling Titan here, and in today's video, we're going to talk about using virtual assistants, how to use them to outsource tasks in your wholesaling business so you can make more money in less time and with less effort. I'm also going to tell you guys a quick story about my first VA, and specifically, this video is going to serve as a quick initial guide on where to find these virtual assistants, how to go about hiring them, what tasks they should do, and how to make sure they're effective and profitable for you. And then I'm going to also show you some of the many pitfalls and rookie mistakes that can cripple your business if you don't do this properly. And I've seen this way too many times. Also, I want to encourage you to stick around till the end of the video where I'll have a sample call for you with a recording of me actually talking to one of my virtual assistants. And I also got a free gift for you at the end. So let's get started with what is a virtual assistant and why do you want one? So a virtual assistant or VA is an employee that works for you remotely. They can do basically anything that doesn't require their physical presence. So that's anything from admin work to handling paperwork to making and answering phone calls, social media management, and the way technology is today, man, there are very few things that can't be outsourced. Now, the reason VAs are so popular for us in wholesaling is largely due to globalization and the buying power of the US dollar in other countries. Now, yes, you can hire VAs in the United States, and there's a case for that, but you can gain massive leverage by hiring VAs in other countries. And some of you may feel like you're taking advantage of someone by paying them a relatively low wage, but if you look at a place like the Philippines, for example, which is a very popular spot for finding VAs, it's easy to say, man, you're only paying $5 an hour. How could someone live off that wage? But my understanding is $1 US dollar there has the buying power of approximately 15 US dollars here. So $100 could buy you 2 or 3 nights in a 3-star hotel. And remember, these are work from home jobs. So if you were making $50 an hour here working from home, a lot of you guys would be fine with that arrangement. Also, contrary to popular belief, if we're still talking about the Philippines, there really is not much of a language barrier. English is an official language of the country, and it's taught in grade school, so most people are bilingual. And yeah, there's some people out there who can be a little bit biased, against the accent, but it's really not a major deterrent. So, quick story. When I first quit my 9-to-5 and started my wholesaling business back in 2012, I was in grind mode, man, putting in long hours, 7 days a week. And then I read this book called The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. And a lot of you guys are probably familiar with it. In this book, he talks about all the positive aspects of outsourcing, recommends you basically outsource everything so you can have that real freedom. I remember he had some pretty funny and even extreme examples. I think there was one where like a guy had an argument with his wife and he had his VA write an apology email and like order her flowers to be delivered or something like that. And so I heard this and I'm like, wow, I've been working so hard at this and I could have someone else do all this for me. So, I did a little research. I put together a manual and I hired my first VA. At this point, I'd probably done about 10 deals or so. So I told my VA what to do. And I kicked my feet up and I just waited for the deals to roll in. And then I watched very slowly as no results came and the money just trickled out of my bank account because I did a lot of things wrong. So now I want to tell you how to do this properly so you don't waste time and waste money like I did, and so you see a massive return on your investment. Now, before I jump into the step-by-step, I want to remind you guys that if you'd like to jump on a free one-on-one call with me, I set aside a few spots each week where we'll look at where you are right now. I'll answer all of your wholesaling questions, help you to establish a game plan so you can do your next deal as fast as possible, and then quit the 9-to-5, be your own boss, have a lucrative real estate business. Now, I do take these calls personally, at least right now, so they are extremely limited. They do fill up every single week, so if you want a spot, go to the link in the description and reserve your spot today. Guys, I've been in business over a decade, right? I started with no money at all. I've seen up and down markets. I've worked with students from all backgrounds. I got some things to teach you. You're going to gain massive clarity. I've not had one single person come out of that call disappointed. And then hopefully we can JV on some deals together. So check it out, wholesalingmike.com/call. All right, so first question I usually get is, where do you find a good VA? There are a lot of good websites that offer virtual assistant services. You can also find a lot of individuals that advertise their VA services in real estate investing groups on Facebook. You should already be subscribed to those, ideally in your local market. And it's not just valuable for VAs, but also finding partners, JV deal opportunities, and other resources. Now, I actually have a list of some websites where you can find VAs, and I'll tell you how to get to that at the end of the video. So for now, we're going to move on to the next most important step, because in my experience, There isn't just one best site for finding VAs. I've been to sites that offer virtual assistant services, and they've had candidates that were fantastic and candidates that were poor. So you have to look at each candidate on an individual basis. The first thing you want to look for is someone who has experience. So when I had my first VA, he had no experience in real estate, and I thought that would be advantageous because I could train him, and I was only paying him like $3 an hour. But you have to look at the short term versus the long term benefits. You do not want to waste a lot of time training. So I recommend you find someone that already has experience. They should know about wholesaling, understand the business, be familiar with the tools associated with the tasks you want them to handle. And there are also certain things that you gain only by experience. So, as an example, when I first started hiring cold callers, I was using a different dialer system. And rather than train them on a new system, I just opted to get the dialer they were already familiar with. It can be very, very exciting to have someone take over the tougher or monotonous tasks and boosting your output. And as a result, there's a tendency to want to rush this process. But if you aren't very diligent in your hiring process, it's going to hurt you in the long run. It's going to take you much longer to build momentum and start seeing results. So next, you want to set up phone interviews. So in addition to asking about experience, you want to also test proficiency. So let's say you're hiring that cold caller. You want to set up the interview quickly, and responses to your request should be fast. Anyone who takes days to get back to you, instantly not qualified. Then when you're on the phone, you're going to role play as if you were a seller to see how they perform. And you want to hit them with objections and some obstacles. So let's say you're pretending to be a motivated seller. You want to ask them, hey, how'd you get my contact information? And then you want to insist that they give you an offer first just to see how they respond. And yes, after you hire them, obviously give them some additional training, but you want to see how they sound on the phone, their words as well as their demeanor. And this will also be indicative of their experience talking to people. Now, one of the sites that I'll give you instructions for later actually allows you to set up interviews 3 at a time. So this process shouldn't take you too long. But just remember, it's very, very important that you take your time with the initial hire to make sure you have the right person. So now the next area where I messed up is not being a good manager. You have to make your expectations crystal clear. They need tangible and objective metrics to hit. And if those metrics are not hit, you have to be quick to let them go. I've been through many, many VAs over the years, and it's rarely a subjective thing. Like I tell them from day one, I need X amount of calls per day. I need X amount of leads per week. If we don't have a contract in 30 days, for example, we'll have to part ways. And I say this up front so they know it's nothing personal, but if we don't hit those metrics, you got to go. Next thing every VA needs is structure and accountability. So look, I don't want to pay someone for their time, even though I'm paying them by the hour. That's really not what I want. What I want is results. So if it takes you 18 hours to get a motivated seller lead, or if it takes you 1 hour, I don't care as long as I get those results. But while I do feel this way, I made the mistake of telling my first VA that, thinking it would make me a better boss and he'd enjoy working for me more and he would strive to get more done in less time. But that was not the case. So you need to provide specific instructions, guidance, create a structure, and provide accountability. So the same way you have a morning meeting at a 9 to 5 job, it could just be 5 or 10 minutes to touch base, but you need to be doing that. So you can have that short morning meeting 4 days a week, and then a longer strategy session once a week. And that's going to keep your VA on task. Now, some people ask if I use any computer monitoring software, and I can see the benefit in doing that. And if you're unfamiliar, these are softwares that you'll have your VA download on their computer where they can activate it, when they're working, and then you can see what they're doing when they're active. Some of these programs, they'll take random screenshots, and you can use these. Personally, I don't. They're pretty easy to fool, and there are other ways for me to track their activity, which I'm going to get to in just a second. So personal choice on that one. But next, with providing that guidance, right? So again, my cold callers, they're using a dialer called Mojo Dialer, which I recommend. And if you're using this, you want to include the option, the add-on option that records all their calls. Now, when your VA is making hundreds of dials a day, you're obviously not going to be listening to each one. But within the dialer dashboard, you can sort these calls by length of time spent on the phone. So obviously, if you see a 20-second call, the seller probably said not interested and just hung up. So there's nothing to see there. But if you look at the longer conversations, you want to listen to those. And then when you have your meetings with your VA, you need to advise them on what they did well. Make sure you give praise for the things they do correctly. But then when they miss opportunities or there's room for improvement, that's when you need to course correct and advise them on how to move forward in the future. So here's a snippet of one of those calls I had with one of my VAs. The audio is not the best, but you can listen in and see how I'm giving her guidance on how to speak to people in the future on a missed opportunity.
All right.
And then here's one where I did think where you missed an opportunity. So let's take a listen to this call.
You look at golf
but we haven't contemplated on selling it yet. But we can give her a cash offer.
Okay, I see. Well, for us to come up with an offer for you, just need to look up with evaluation. If you look, I asked you some questions with regards to this property.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. How long have you owned this property, sir?
My wife has listen. My wife has an Alzheimer right now, so I'm taking care of her business. Sit down and talk about it. It's gonna be between me and my daughter. So right now, she's not really capable of making any kind of decisions on, but she doesn't want to sell it, right? So, but if you want to make an offer that we can't refuse, then we'll do that.
And then here is where I think you missed the main opportunity to always get a price. What are you guys offering? Oh, that's fine. Look, I completely understand, that you want to get an offer first. The thing is, I'm just here to collect the data, and then I pass it on to my team of acquisition managers. Now, in order to submit that to them, I just have to fill out my information sheet, and I can't submit it into our system unless we have unless I put a number in here. It's okay to be like, I'm not the direct decision maker. I'm just like collecting this information for you. Okay. Okay. So now a few rapid fire answers. How much should you pay them? When to hire them, and what they should do first. So how much you should pay a VA? Obviously, entirely up to you and what fits your budget. A good rate for a starting VA in the Philippines with wholesaling experience. Expect to pay about $6 an hour, and you can have them work full or part-time. You can give them pay raises as you see fit, as long as there's a return on your investment. And personally, I always like to compensate based on merit, based on results. So for example, you could give a $100 bonus for every deal closed. Next, I tell my students that in the vast majority of cases, you should not get a VA until you've done a deal yourself, and ideally done several deals. Obviously, there are exceptions to the rule, particularly if you have some money to play with and you have very limited time, but it's much better if you have that personal experience, because it'll make you a better teacher, better manager, give you a better understanding of how to overcome those obstacles. And then finally, the first tasks I recommend outsourcing are your lead generation tasks. Don't let anyone tell you cold calling is dead, and using VAs to make cold calls, it's a great and cost-effective way to start flooding your pipeline with leads. In addition to talking on the phone, you can also have your VAs accept incoming calls, do on-demand tasks, things like sending out email blasts, posting properties on social media, things like that. So those are some of the essential points for hiring and working with VAs. Now, I have an ebook. It's called The Virtual Assistant Vault. It recaps and then even goes deeper on some of the points in this video, including specific websites where you can find those VAs. You can grab it on my website for like $20. But if you want to give me a follow on Instagram and DM me a VA book, I'll send you a copy for free. So if you guys have any additional questions, please be sure to leave those down in the comment section below. Thank you, as always, for watching today. I really do appreciate it, man. I love the feedback, and to everyone who watches and reaches out, know that I'm absolutely rooting for you guys. I'm happy to answer your questions and take suggestions for future videos. And if you would, do me a solid, drop a like or comment, and please do subscribe to the channel with those notifications on. Appreciate you guys so much, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.